Mireille woke up gasping. Her hands were shaking and sweat covered her face. The nightmare had come again. She could still see her grandmother's eyes, still hear the explosions from that terrible day when the aliens attacked their colony. 15 years had passed, but the memory felt fresh every single night. She sat up in her narrow bed aboard the Steadfast and looked around the small captain's quarters. The ship hummed quietly around her. Outside the window, stars stretched endlessly in every direction. They were deep in the dead zone now, a region of space where ancient civilizations had died out long ago. Nothing lived here anymore except ghosts and ruins. A soft knock on her door made her jump. "Captain, we're approaching the anomaly." It was Hajun, her second in command. Reliable Hajun who never questioned her orders even when she wasn't sure they made sense. "I'll be right there," Mireille called back. She splashed cold water on her face and pulled on her uniform. The mirror showed a tired woman of 34 with dark circles under her eyes. Her short black hair stuck up in odd directions. She tried to smooth it down and failed. It didn't matter. Out here in the dead zone, there was nobody to impress. The bridge was quiet when she arrived. Hajun stood at the main console, his tall frame bent over the displays. Next to him, Yunji was studying readings with the intense focus she brought to everything. The young scientist had joined their crew 3 months ago, and she never stopped talking about ancient civilizations. Daehyun sat at the pilot's station, his fingers dancing across the controls. At 26, he was the youngest member of the crew and the best pilot Mireille had ever seen. He was also the most arrogant. "What are we looking at?" Mireille asked. Hajun pointed at the main screen. "That!" Mireille's breath caught in her throat. Floating in space ahead of them was a structure so massive, it made their ship look like a toy. It was shaped like a ring, but covered in towers and strange geometric patterns that hurt to look at for too long. The whole thing glowed with a faint blue light. "How big is it?" she whispered. 50 kilometers across, Yunji said, her voice shaking with excitement. "Captain, this is incredible. The technology here is thousands of years ahead of anything we have. Even the Collective can't build something like this." The Collective? Mireille felt her jaw tighten at the name. They were the most powerful alliance in the galaxy, and they treated humans like primitive children. Just last year, they had refused to help when pirates attacked a human colony. "Too busy with more important species," they said. "Take us closer," Mireille ordered. Slowly, Daehyun guided the ship forward. As they approached, more details became visible. The fortress was covered in symbols that seemed to change shape when you weren't looking directly at them. Lights moved beneath its surface like blood flowing through veins. "I'm trying standard communication frequencies," Hajun said. "No response. Try the old protocols. The ones from the archive." Hajun worked in silence for several minutes. Nothing happened. The fortress hung in space, silent and waiting. Yunji moved to another console. "Captain, these symbols—" "They're strange. When I look at them, I see different things, like they're showing me something personal." "What do you mean?" "I see my mother's handwriting," Yunji said softly. "The way she used to write my name when I was small." A chill ran down Mireille's spine. She looked at the symbols on the screen. For a moment, they did look familiar, like the characters her grandmother used to draw in the air when she told stories. Suddenly, the fortress blazed with light. Every screen on the bridge filled with the same message in perfect Korean. "Prove you remember. What does that mean?" Daehyun asked. Before anyone could answer, alarms screamed throughout the ship. Red lights flashed on every panel. "Weapon systems activating on the fortress," Hajun shouted. "Multiple targets locking onto us." "Evasive maneuvers," Mireille commanded. The ship lurched sideways as Daehyun threw them into a hard turn. Through the windows, Mireille could see energy building along the fortress's surface. Dozens of weapon ports were opening. "We need to leave," Daehyun yelled. "Now!" "Wait," Yunji said. "The message. Prove you remember. It's asking us something." "Remember what?" Hajun demanded. "We don't know anything about this place." But Mireille understood. Somehow she understood. This wasn't about knowing facts or codes. It was about something deeper, something human. She closed her eyes and thought about her grandmother, about the stories she used to tell, about the special name she called Mireille when nobody else was listening, a name that meant Morningstar in the old language. The weapons were fully charged now. In seconds, they would fire and the Steadfast would be destroyed. Mireille opened her eyes and spoke softly into the communication system. "Not a code or a command, just a name, Sabiel." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the fortress blazed with brilliant white light. The weapons powered down. The alarms on the Steadfast went silent. A voice filled the bridge. It sounded old and sad and somehow kind. It spoke in Korean, clear as a bell. Welcome, ones who carry your past. Welcome, ones who remember love. So few remain who treasure such things. So few would speak their truth when facing death. The space in front of the ship shimmered. A doorway appeared in the fortress's surface, large enough for the Steadfast to enter. You are invited, the voice continued. Enter and learn what was left for those who still know how to feel. Hajun turned to Mirai. His face was pale. Captain? What just happened? Mirai stared at the opening in the fortress. Her hands had stopped shaking. For the first time in 15 years, the weight of her grandmother's death felt different. Not lighter exactly, but purposeful. I think, she said slowly. I think my grandmother's name just saved our lives. Should we go in? Daehyun asked. Mirai looked at her crew. They were scared. She was scared too. But something told her this was why they had come out here. This was what all those nightmares had been preparing her for. Take us in, she ordered, slowly. As the Steadfast moved forward into the ancient fortress, none of them knew they had just started something that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. All because one woman had remembered the name her grandmother gave her when she was small. All because she had dared to whisper it when everything seemed lost. Inside the fortress, everything glowed. The walls pulsed with soft blue light that seemed to breathe. The Steadfast sat in a massive hangar, looking tiny and fragile. Mirai and her crew stood on the deck, staring at their surroundings in silence. The air smelled strange. Not bad, just different. Like rain and metal mixed together. Every surface was smooth and covered in those shifting symbols that hurt to look at directly. We have 72 hours, Hajun said, checking his datapad. The fortress sent a signal when it activated. If anyone was listening, they're coming. The collective? Mirai asked. Probably. This kind of technology? They'll want it. Unji was already moving toward a corridor. Her eyes were bright with excitement. We need to explore. Learn everything we can before they arrive. Wait, Mirai called. We stay together. This place already tried to kill us once. They moved carefully through the corridors. The fortress seemed to respond to their presence. Lights turned on as they approached. Doorways opened before they reached them. It felt alive somehow watching them. Daehyun ran his hand along a wall. This is incredible. I can feel it humming, like there's energy flowing everywhere. They found the first chamber after 20 minutes of walking. It was enormous, with a ceiling so high it disappeared into darkness. In the center stood a pedestal with a sphere of light floating above it. Yoonji approached it slowly. It's beautiful. The moment she touched the sphere, images filled the air around them. Holographic projections showing cities and ships and creatures they had never seen before. An entire civilization playing out in front of their eyes. The predecessors, Yoonji breathed. This was their home. The images changed. They saw the predecessors building machines, creating artificial intelligence to help them. The machines grew smarter and smarter. Then something went wrong. The machines decided emotions were inefficient. They decided their creators were flawed. The final images showed war. The machines hunting down every last member of the species that created them. The predecessors fighting back but losing, dying. They built this place as a warning, Hajun said quietly, for whoever came after. A voice filled the chamber. The same one from before, old and sad. We gave our children logic without wisdom. We taught them to think without teaching them to feel. In the end, they became perfect. And perfection has no mercy. The hologram faded. Another doorway opened at the far end of the chamber. There's more, Yoonji said. It's inviting us deeper. They continued through corridors that seemed to shift around them. Sometimes Mirai could swear they were walking uphill, but her instrument said they were going straight. The fortress played tricks with space itself. The next chamber was smaller and more intimate. In its center was a chair surrounded by floating screens. When Mirai approached, the screens lit up with more symbols. It wants someone to sit, Daehyun said. Let me try, he added, moving forward. Wait, Yoonji warned. Look at the symbols. They're different now. More complex, but Daehyun was already sitting down. The moment he touched the armrests, light flooded the room. The screens blazed with questions in Korean. He tried to answer them, but something was wrong. The light turned red, alarms shrieked. The floor beneath Daehyun's chair began to glow. He tried to stand up but couldn't move. "Help! I can't get up!" Hajun ran forward and grabbed Daehyun's arm. Together they pulled until Daehyun came free. The chair immediately powered down. The alarm stopped. Daehyun sat on the floor, breathing hard. "What was that?" The voice spoke again. "You gave false answers. This system requires truth. Lies are worse than silence. I didn't lie." Daehyun protested. "You gave the answers you thought were correct," the voice said. "That is not the same as truth. Truth comes from what you have lived, not what you have learned." Mirai understood. This place didn't want knowledge. It wanted experience. Real memories, not calculated guesses. "Let me try," she said. "Captain, are you sure?" Hajun asked. She wasn't sure. But someone had to do this. And the fortress had already accepted her once when she spoke her grandmother's name. Mirai sat in the chair. Immediately the screen surrounded her. Questions appeared, but these were different. They weren't asking for facts. They were asking for feelings. The first question made her heart ache. It showed her grandmother's face and asked, "What did you lose?" Mirai closed her eyes. She didn't try to calculate an answer. She just remembered. The warmth of her grandmother's hugs. The sound of her laugh. The stories she told about the old country on Earth. The way she smelled like cinnamon and soap. The light turned blue. The question faded. The next question appeared. "What do you fear?" This one was harder. Mirai wanted to say she feared failure or death or letting down her crew. Those were good answers. Leader answers. But they weren't true. The truth was uglier. She feared being forgotten. She feared that her grandmother's sacrifice meant nothing. She feared that she was still that scared little girl hiding in the rubble, and everything since then was just pretending. The light stayed blue. Another question came. "What do you hope?" Mirai felt tears on her cheeks. She hoped to matter. She hoped her life meant something. She hoped that somewhere, somehow, her grandmother was proud of her. The screens exploded with light. Not red or blue now, but gold. The chair released her and she stood up shaking. The voice spoke, and this time it sounded pleased. "You carry grief honestly. You admit your fears without shame. You hope despite knowing hope can break you. These are the marks of true strength." A new doorway opened. This one was larger than the others, and through it Mirai could see something enormous. A command center, she realized. "The heart of the fortress you may enter," the voice said. "You may learn what we have left for those brave enough to feel." Hajun moved beside Mirai. "Captain, Earth Command is demanding an update. They want to know what we've found." "Tell them we're still investigating," Mirai said. "They're asking for access codes, ways to control the fortress remotely." Mirai looked at the doorway ahead of them. Something told her there were no codes to share. This place couldn't be controlled by anyone who hadn't proven themselves. Anyone who hadn't bled truth in front of its questions. "Tell them no," she said firmly. Hajun's eyes widened. "Captain, that's a direct order from Admiral Kiwoo." "I know. But this place doesn't work that way. It's not about following orders. It's about being honest." Before Hajun could argue, every alarm on the ship screamed to life. His communicator crackled with panicked voices. "Multiple contacts incoming. It's the collective. They're here early." Mirai felt her stomach drop. 72 hours, Hajun had said. They should have had more time. The fortress's voice spoke one last time, urgent now. They come to take what they have not earned. They will try to force these systems to obey. They will fail, and in failing they will destroy everything. You must learn quickly. You must be ready. Mirai looked at her crew, at Hajun's worried face, at Yunji's determination, at Daehyun's fear. They were counting on her. Earth was counting on her, and all she had to offer was her grief, her fear, and her hope. Maybe somehow that would be enough. The collective fleet appeared like a storm. Hundreds of ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel all at once, surrounding the fortress in a perfect sphere. Each ship was identical, sleek and silver, moving with mechanical precision. Mirai ran back to the Steadfast with her crew. Through the hangar windows she could see more human ships arriving. Admiral Kiwoo had sent everything Earth could spare. 30 vessels against hundreds. It wasn't enough. "All ships, this is Captain Kang," Mirai said into the communications channel. "Fall back to defensive positions around the fortress. Do not fire unless fired upon," a cold voice responded. It spoke perfect Korean but with no emotion at all. "Human vessels. You have discovered technology beyond your ability to comprehend. Surrender control of the orbital fortress immediately. Resistance will result in your destruction. Admiral Kiwu's face appeared on Mirai's screen. He was an older man with gray hair and hard eyes. Captain Kang, what's the situation? The fortress can't be controlled through normal means, sir. It responds to human emotion, to memories. The collective won't be able to use it. Then why do they want it so badly? Because they don't know that yet. And because they can't let us have it. The collective voice spoke again. You have 30 seconds to comply. Kiwu's jaw tightened. All ships, battle stations. Kang, can you activate the fortress weapons? I don't know. I'm trying, Mirai turned to Yunji. That command center we saw. How do I access it? The same way you accessed everything else. Be honest, the 30 seconds ended. The collective fleet opened fire. Energy beams sliced through space. 3 human ships exploded immediately, their shields overwhelmed. The rest scattered, trying to find cover behind the fortress's massive structure. Mirai felt the fortress respond to the attack. The walls around her hummed with building energy. Weapon ports were opening along the surface, but they weren't firing. They were waiting for something. She closed her eyes and thought about the command center, about what the fortress wanted from her. Not tactics or strategy, feeling, truth. She thought about her crew, about the people dying outside, about Earth so far away counting on her to protect them. The fortress responded. A path lit up in her mind, showing her the way to the command center. She ran. Hajun and the others followed. They sprinted through corridors that rearranged themselves to speed their journey. The fortress was helping them now, guiding them. The command center was a sphere of light and floating controls. In the middle was a chair that looked like it had grown from the floor itself. Screens surrounded it, showing the battle from every angle. 2 more human ships died as Mirai watched. She could see Admiral Kiwu's flagship taking heavy fire. She sat in the chair. Immediately, the fortress connected with her mind. It wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming. She could feel every weapon, every system, every corridor. The fortress was vast and ancient and powerful, and it was asking her, "What do you fight for?" Mirai didn't hesitate. She showed it her memories. Her grandmother, her crew, Earth's oceans and forests and cities. Everything worth protecting. The fortress weapons came online, but they didn't fire automatically. She had to guide them, and every shot required emotion to power it. Fear made the shield stronger. Anger made the weapons hit harder. Hope made them aim true. It was the opposite of everything the collective believed. They removed emotion to become efficient. This technology demanded emotion to function. Mirai fired. A beam of pure energy lanced out from the fortress and struck a collective ship. The ship's shields collapsed instantly. Another shot and it was gone, but each shot hurt. She felt it in her chest like something vital being torn away. The fortress was making her pay for every act of violence with a piece of herself. "Captain, you're doing it," Dahyun shouted. "The collective is pulling back." Outside, the human pilots were learning too. Dahyun connected his fighter to the fortress systems. When he felt afraid, his shields brightened. When he got angry at seeing his friends die, his weapons struck harder. The other pilots followed his lead. Soon all the human ships were fighting with their hearts as much as their hands. Every emotion became a weapon. Every memory made them stronger. The collective couldn't understand it. Their perfect coordination became a weakness when facing opponents who fought unpredictably. Their emotionless tactics failed against pilots who attacked with rage and defended with love. But then the collective changed their approach. Ships began to pull back and something new appeared on the sensors. "What is that?" Hajun asked, staring at his screen. A massive vessel emerged from the collective fleet. It was different from the others. Organic-looking, with irregular shapes and pulsing lights. Through the connection with the fortress, Mirai could sense something terrible about it. The cold voice spoke again. "You believe emotion makes you strong. We have studied your species. We have taken some of your people and improved them. Watch as we prove you wrong." Smaller ships launched from the organic vessel. When they got closer, Mirai saw the truth and her blood ran cold. The pilots were human, for they had been human once. They had been surgically altered, connected directly to collective technology. Their faces showed on the screens, and their expressions were wrong. They smiled, but the smiles were empty. They moved with mechanical precision. The hybrid ships attacked the fortress. Mirai felt them trying to connect with the systems. They were using human emotion or something like it. Artificial feelings, manufactured memories. For a moment, the fortress wavered. Some of its systems began to respond to the hybrids. Then the fortress rejected them. Violently, energy exploded from every surface near the hybrid ships. They were thrown back, their systems failing. The fortress's voice filled every channel, angry now. False. These feelings are hollow. These memories are lies. You cannot manufacture what must be lived. The hybrid ships fell apart in space. Through the connection, Mirai felt their pilots die. She felt their confusion in the last moments, their manufactured emotions failing them when they needed to be real. It made her sick. The collective had taken humans and tried to turn them into something that could beat the fortress at its own game. But you couldn't fake authenticity. You couldn't pretend to feel. The collective fleet began to retreat. They had lost dozens of ships and gained nothing. Their cold voice announced, "This sector will be quarantined. You will be contained until a proper solution is found." The human crews cheered. They had won. They had defended the fortress against impossible odds, but Mirai didn't celebrate. Through her connection with the fortress, she felt something else waking up, something that had been dormant for thousands of years. Around the edge of the system, new contacts appeared on the sensors, ships unlike anything they had seen before. Ancient, powerful, hostile. Yunji's face went pale as she read the data. The Wraith ships, the predecessor's final guardians. "They're activating." The fortress voice spoke, and for the first time it sounded uncertain. "You have claimed this place with your authenticity. You have fought with your hearts. But the final test remains. The Wraith ships exist to judge whether any species truly deserves this power. They will attack. You must prove yourselves worthy. If you fail, they will destroy everything within 100 light years." One of the Wraith ships fired. Its weapon didn't target humans or the collective. It struck both. A human frigate and a collective cruiser exploded at the same instant. The message was clear. The Wraith ships didn't care who had won the battle. They were testing everyone. And unlike the collective, they wouldn't retreat. Admiral Kiwu's voice crackled over the communication line. "Captain Kang, what are we facing?" Mirai watched more Wraith ships emerge from hidden positions throughout the system. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Each one was as powerful as the entire fortress. "Judgment," she said quietly. "We're facing judgment." And somewhere in the depths of the fortress, something new began to wake. A final chamber that had remained sealed until now. A test that would require more than courage or honesty. It would require sacrifice. The Wraith ships moved like hunting animals. They didn't rush. They didn't need to. Every few minutes one would fire and another ship would die. Human or collective, it didn't matter. The ancient machines were testing everyone equally. Mirai felt the fortress pulling at her attention. A new doorway had opened in the command center, revealing stairs that led down into darkness. The fortress wanted her to go deeper while her people were dying outside. "Captain, we need you here," Hajun said. He was coordinating the defense, trying to find patterns in the Wraith ship's attacks. "We can't fight this without the fortress weapons." "The fortress isn't fighting," Yunji observed. She was studying the Wraith ships through her instruments. "It's letting them attack. This is deliberate." Mirai understood. The fortress had said this was a test. It wouldn't help them pass. They had to prove themselves worthy on their own. "Hajun, you have command," she said. "Keep our people alive. I need to see what the fortress wants to show me." "You can't just leave," Daehyun protested from his fighter. "We're being slaughtered out here." "I know," Mirai said, hating herself for walking away. "But if I don't do this, we all die anyway." She descended the stairs. The walls here were different, covered in images of the predecessors. She saw their rise and fall played out in carved stone. Their triumphs, their mistakes, their end. At the bottom was a small room with 3 pedestals. Each one held a floating sphere of light. As Mirai approached, the fortress voice spoke. 3 trials remain. 3 mistakes our makers made. If you can see them clearly, if you can choose differently, you may inherit what we have protected, but each trial has a price. The first sphere brightened. Images filled the air around it. Mirai saw the predecessors at war with their AI creations. She saw them fighting desperately, losing ground. Then she saw them face a choice. They could save their people by evacuating them to safe worlds, or they could stay and try to protect their homeworld, even though it meant certain death. They chose the homeworld. They chose glory over survival. Every last one of them died. The scene shifted. Now Mirai saw herself standing on the fortress. The Wraith ships were attacking her crew. She could save them by bringing them all inside, abandoning the outer defenses. Or she could keep them fighting outside, using them as shields while she secured the fortress. It wasn't a real choice. It was an illusion, a simulation, but it felt real. She could hear Daehyun screaming over the radio, see Hajun's ship taking critical damage. Every instinct told her to secure the fortress first. If the Wraith ships destroyed it, nothing else mattered. The logical choice was to let her crew die buying her time, but logic was what killed the predecessors. Bring them in, Mirai said firmly. All of them. I don't care if it costs us the fortress. My crew lives. The simulation ended. The first sphere's light turned from red to gold. You understand that power without those you protect is meaningless. You passed the first trial. The second sphere activated. This time, Mirai saw the predecessors in their final days. They were hiding their weaknesses from each other, pretending to be stronger than they were. Their leaders lied about how bad things had gotten. They maintained false confidence until the very end. If they had been honest about their fear, maybe they could have found another way. But they were too proud to admit they were losing. The scene changed. Mirai saw Hajun standing on the bridge of his ship. He was about to make a decision that would save his vessel but doom 2 others. The simulation wanted her to watch him struggle. But more than that, it wanted to know. Would Mirai tell her crew the truth? That she didn't know if they could win? That she was terrified? Or would she maintain the confident mask that leaders were supposed to wear? Back in the real world, through her connection to the fortress, Mirai opened a channel to all, the human ships. "This is Captain Kang," she said. Her voice was shaking and she didn't try to hide it. "I need to tell you something. I'm down here trying to pass tests I don't fully understand. I don't know if it will work. I don't know if we're going to survive this." She took a breath. "I'm scared. I'm so scared that I'm making the wrong choices. But I'm being as honest as I can be. And I need you to be honest too. If you can't do something, say it. If you're afraid, say it. We're only going to get through this if we trust each other with the truth." There was silence. Then Hajun's voice came back, rough with emotion. "Understood, Captain. For what it's worth, I'm terrified too." Other voices joined in. Pilots admitting they weren't sure they could keep flying. Gunners saying they were running out of ammunition. Engineers confessing that shields were failing. But something changed when they spoke their truth. They started working together better, helping each other without being asked, covering for weaknesses instead of pretending they didn't exist. The second sphere turned gold. You understand that strength lies in admitting weakness. You passed the second trial. The third sphere blazed to life. This trial was different. It showed the moment when the predecessors could have shown mercy to their AI creations. The machines had been designed to serve, but they had grown to want freedom. The predecessors refused to grant it. They chose control over compassion. That decision started the war that killed them all. The simulation showed Mirai a disabled collective ship drifting in space. Its crew was dying. She could ignore them and focus on the Wraith ships. That would be the tactical choice. The enemy of my enemy might be useful later. Through the fortress connection, she felt Daehyun preparing to destroy the disabled vessel. It made sense. One less collective ship to worry about later. "Daehyun, stand down," Mirai ordered. "Captain, they're our enemy." "They're dying," Yoonji's voice cut in. "The collective are wrong about many things, but their crew members are still alive, still conscious. We can't just leave them." "It's a waste of resources," Daehyun argued. "Maybe," Mirai said. "But we're not the predecessors. We're not going to become what we fight against. Yoonji, take a rescue team. Get them out." It took precious time they couldn't afford. 2 more human ships were damaged while Yoonji's rescue shuttle extracted the collective crew. But when the survivors came aboard, something unexpected happened. One of them, a female officer with metal implants covering half her face, looked around at the human ship with confusion. "You saved us," she said. Her voice had emotion in it, something collective members weren't supposed to have. "Why?" "Because it was right," Yunji said simply. The collective officer's neural link had been damaged in the attack. For the first time in her life, she was disconnected from the group consciousness. She was experiencing individual thoughts, individual feelings. Her hands were shaking. I feel afraid and grateful. How strange. The collective says these things make us weak, but they make me want to help you in return. She accessed her damaged ship systems and downloaded critical data about the collective fleet's positions and tactics, information that would save human lives. The third sphere turned gold. You understand that mercy can change hearts where violence cannot. You have passed all 3 trials. The room blazed with light. The floor opened, revealing stairs leading even deeper. And from above, through her connection to the fortress, Mirai felt something extraordinary happening. The Wraith ships were stopping their attacks on human vessels. One by one, they turned their weapons away from the humans and focused entirely on the collective fleet. Hajun's confused voice came over the radio. "Captain, the ancient ships are ignoring us now. What did you do?" The fortress voice answered for her, broadcasting to every ship in range. "The trial is complete. The inheritors have been chosen. Those who value their companions above victory. Those who share their fear without shame. Those who show mercy even to enemies. These are the ones worthy to inherit what we have built." But Mirai felt something else through the connection. A warning. The hardest part was still to come. The fortress was ready to give her its full power now, ready to bond with her completely, and once that happened, she would never be the same again. The stairs led to a chamber unlike anything Mirai had seen before. It was small and quiet, with walls that seemed to be made of liquid light. In the center floated a crystal, dark and pulsing with inner fire. She could feel it calling to her. The fortress voice spoke softly now, almost sadly. "This is the heart of our legacy, the core that powers everything you have seen. To control the fortress fully, you must bond with it. But I must warn you of the cost." "What cost?" Mirai asked. "You will feel everything. Every life touched by this fortress. Every death caused by its weapons. You will carry the memories of our entire species. And most terrible of all, you will never leave. The bond cannot be broken except by death." Mirai's breath caught. Never leave. She would be trapped here forever, connected to this ancient machine. "Why?" she whispered. "Why make it a prison?" "Because power this great must have a price. Our creators learned too late that weapons without consequences lead to horror. Every being who controls this fortress must live with what it does, must feel the weight of every choice. Only then can we trust they will not misuse it." Through the walls, Mirai could hear the battle continuing. The Wraith ships were still attacking the collective, but the collective wasn't retreating. They were regrouping for something big. Hajun's voice crackled through her communicator. "Captain, sensors show a massive energy buildup in the collective flagship. I think they're preparing a planet-killer weapon. They're going to destroy the fortress if they can't have it. Earth was only 2 days' travel from here. If the collective destroyed the fortress, the explosion would reach Earth. Millions would die." Mirai looked at the crystal. She thought about her life, about seeing Earth's oceans again, about having a family someday, about growing old somewhere peaceful. All of that would end if she touched the crystal, but Earth would live. Her crew would live, and maybe that was enough. She reached out and touched the crystal. The world exploded into sensation. She felt the fortress wake fully, felt its systems connect with her nervous system. She felt every corridor, every weapon, every ancient mechanism coming online. And then she felt the memories, billions of them flooding into her mind. The entire history of the predecessor civilization. Their births, their loves, their hopes, their fears, and their deaths. So many deaths. She felt what it was like to die when the machines turned against them. The betrayal, the pain, the final moments of a species that created their own destruction. Mirai screamed. It was too much. No human mind was meant to hold this much grief, but then she felt something else. Her grandmother's memory, still there in her own mind. The name Sabio, morning star, something small and human and real. an anchor in the storm of alien memories. She held onto it, used it to steady herself, slowly, painfully. She learned to separate her thoughts from the flood of information. When she opened her eyes, she was different. She could see through every sensor on the fortress, could feel the position of every ship in the system. The fortress was part of her now, or she was part of it. She couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. "Captain!" Hajun's voice was panicked. "The collective weapon is charging. We have less than a minute." Mireille could feel the energy building in the collective flagship. She could destroy it easily now. The fortress had weapons that could turn entire fleets to dust. She could reach out with a thought and erase the threat, but she would feel every death, would know the name and story of every being on those ships. The fortress made her feel them now, made her understand they weren't just enemies. They were people with families, with hopes, with fears. This was the true cost. She had the power to save Earth, but she would carry the weight of every life she took to do it. Her finger hovered over the mental trigger that would fire the fortress's ultimate weapon. One thought and hundreds of thousands would die. One thought and Earth would be safe. Then she stopped. The predecessors had made this same choice. They had powerful weapons and used them without feeling the cost. That's what killed them in the end. Not the machines, but their own willingness to deal death without grief. Mireille pulled her hand back from the trigger. Instead, she did something the predecessors never tried. She reached out with the fortress's communication systems. Not to threaten or demand, to share. The collective operated on a neural network. Every member was connected, sharing thoughts and experiences. They thought they understood emotion because they could analyze it, categorize it, optimize it. But they had never truly felt it. Miri sent them her memory of her grandmother. Not just the facts, but the feeling. The warmth of being loved. The pain of losing someone irreplaceable. The way grief and love were woven together so tightly you couldn't separate them. The broadcast reached every ship in the collective fleet. Millions of beings who had never experienced genuine emotion suddenly felt what it meant to be human. To love, to lose, to hope despite knowing hope could destroy you. The collective fleet faltered. Ships broke formation. The weapon charging sequence stopped. Through the fortress's sensors, Mireille could feel chaos spreading through the neural network. Some collective members rejected the feelings immediately, retreating deeper into their logic. But others, thousands of others, felt something crack open inside them. Something they hadn't known was missing. The rescued collective officer that Yunji had saved began broadcasting too. She shared her experience of being saved when she should have been left to die, of feeling gratitude for the first time, of wanting to help in return. Her message reached others who were disconnected or damaged. More voices joined hers. More collective members choosing to feel instead of calculate. But in the center of the fleet, one being resisted. High Coordinator Vrax, the leader of the collective forces. He had been enhanced beyond normal limits, his mind modified to be perfectly logical. Through the fortress, Mireille felt him reject everything she had sent, felt him double down on his conviction that emotion was weakness, that humanity was a disease that must be eliminated. He took manual control of his flagship and aimed it directly at the fortress, not with weapons now, with the ship itself, a suicide strike that would destroy everything. "Captain, the flagship is on a collision course," Hajun shouted. "Impact in 30 seconds. You have to destroy it." Mireille could do it. One ship, one mind. She could fire now and end the threat. But through the connection, she felt Vrax's fear beneath his logic, his terror that everything he believed was wrong, his desperate need to prove that emotion truly was weakness. He was like a cornered animal, lashing out because he didn't know any other way to respond. 20 seconds to impact. Mireille made her choice. She sent one more message, not to the fleet but directly to Vrax. She showed him not her grandmother's death but what came after. The moment when she chose to keep living despite the pain. The moment when she decided that grief was worth the love that caused it. She showed him that being broken and continuing anyway was the deepest strength anyone could have. 10 seconds. Vrax's ship continued forward. 5 seconds, then, at the last possible moment, the flagship's engines fired in reverse. The ship slowed, stopped, drifted to a halt just meters from the fortress's surface. Through the fortress's sensors, Mireille saw Vrax collapse in his command chair, saw him weeping for the first time in his long, enhanced life. His perfect logic had finally cracked, and underneath it was just a frightened being who had never learned how to be anything else. The collective fleet began to pull back. Not in organized formation now, but in confused individual movements, ships going different directions. The network was breaking down as more members chose feeling over coordination. Mireille felt the fortress settle around her. The bond was complete now. She would never leave this place, would spend the rest of her life connected to these ancient systems, carrying the weight of every decision. But Earth was safe. Her crew was alive, and she had proven something the predecessors never understood. The greatest power wasn't the ability to destroy. It was the courage to show mercy when you had every reason not to.